welcome back. Before I get started, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that's been subscribing. We've been getting a lot more subscribers lately, and that's awesome. I know you know about pushing the like button to help others find their way to us. That'd be great. Yeah, it's so appreciated. We're racking them up, and it's super to be able to talk to so many people about crafts and carrying on like that. Today, what I wanted to do was a bit on soft stone carving, slate in particular. I've made some pieces like this piece that I wear. Maybe you can see there. I've had that for a long time. But here's some slate pieces that I've carved. These are gorgets, also necklaces or pendants. There's another one. Today, I'm going to be using a piece of green slate like mine here, and I'm going to make a hammer of the gods, Thor's hammer. So I just wanted to show you how much fun it is to work with slate. I mean, as far as soft stones go, you've got slate and soapstone and pipestone, and there's a bunch of really nice stones. I'm a carver. I'll carve anything that's carvable, and I love to try new things. So I'm going to take you through the process. I'm going to take this piece of slate, which was more than likely an old roof tile, but you can buy slate at almost any building supply store, you know, and all you need is a few simple tools to do it. So we'll go through all that step by step. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to draw a design on. And I'm going to start with the actual hammer part, the head of it, down here. And, okay, I'm going to do a center line. From that, build up the sides, so like that. Does that show? Yeah, I guess that shows kind of hard dark on dark like that. Then we're going to clamp it up in a vise. Slate is kind of brittle, and is that you don't want to put it in a vise and crank it down tight to break without some kind of padding. So about like that. Slate, like all stones, comes in a variety of hardnesses. So as you're playing around with it, you learn which ones are softer and easier to work with. This green slate I've been using since I was a kid for all kinds of things. It's a relatively soft slate, easily carved and cut. If you get into red slate, I've found most of the time is very hard and it does not cut well, but this does. So you don't want to force it. Let the teeth cut the stone on their own pace, you know, force things and things break. It's free now, it's free. Oops, where are you? There. So now I can come down, cut to here, both sides, and come in, take these pieces off, and then the carving starts. You can cut this stuff with a saber saw. Thank you. With a metal cutting blade in it, if you run it kind of on the slow side, but this is more fun. It's a nice little piece we can make something out of later. Ta-da! That's what we're looking for. It's a good start. Another tool in the process of working with slate that's handy is a fine rasp or a coarse file would serve you well. I think this one is the one that I'm going to use the most. It's they call a half round. You can see the half round. A nice flat side too, so it'll be versatile in what I have to do here. And I'm going to start off working on the handle part, and I'm going to use this rasp to take the corners off here. It's not so bad. I'm going to undercut here. I want kind of a spherical end on the handle there. The handle itself shall be tapered. Yeah. Again, you can, in my vacuum box where I carve dusty things, you could use power tools, you know, a little disc sander and stuff like that, make short work of Slate. But this is, like I said, more fun. And sometimes little things that have spiritual meaning, personal meaning to them, I like to do by hand. Put a little more thought, more my own spirit into it. Blood, sweat, and tears, even. Pretty close for that side. Basically the form I'm looking for with the handle. Now I'm going to actually carve it so that the handle looks like it's going into the head of the hammer. And that'll make it look really cool. What's slick about this, what really turns me on, is that if this thing ends up in the dirt or anywhere, it'll last for about ever. And, what's fun for me is making something that will last for about ever. Long after I'm gone, this thing will be kicking around. I did a hammer like this for a friend. He comes up and trims my donkey's hooves for us, and thank you, I made him one out of walrus ivory. And he said, I won't have that long as soon as my wife finds it. She's Norwegian. And I think it's hers now. Working with Slate without power tools is one, the dust is heavy, you know, and it falls fast to the ground. It doesn't stay airborne and therefore risk ending up in my lungs. If I was doing this with power tools, I'd have to be in my vacuum box over there, the fan going, and can't hear the breeze. It's such a lovely day today. I like to hear the breeze, birds. That's where hand tools rule. All right, this is pretty good. I'm going to flatten off the sides of the head here with the file. Just to clean it up. See what I got to play with. That tends to knock the dust out. I don't have a file card. This file has been working really well. It's fairly sharp, fairly new. It's not too coarse. It's not too fine. It seems to be all right. You can see it's not completely symmetrical, the head of it. So we'll work on that. Sometimes holding it is the biggest problem. Gives you a little more flexibility if it's locked up in a bench vise like this. You have to approach it from just one certain angle. This allows you to move it about in your hand. This is a small file, but square, and it's got these square shoulders, corners to work with. Coming around the into the handle here. It's a very sharp file. It cuts very nicely. So I've got it fairly symmetrical now. I'm happy with it. Now what I'm going to do is center line on both sides. Okay, I'm going to taper it so that the face of the head is narrower than it is now on both sides. With this marginal ridge right here, make it look really nice. That dark spot right there, some kind of an inclusion of fairly hard mineral, I'm not sure what. As the slate was formed, perhaps it was just a particle of something that got layered in with it. They can be a drag if they end up in the wrong place and you're trying to do detail. I'd like to think I'm going to file through it. Oakley dokley. I've got that taper on both sides now. Perhaps if you show it like, where are you? There, yeah. Now I'm going to soften the edges a wee bit. One file has become a fave. So I'm using my thumb as a guide to keep the file away from the handle. I don't want to put any unnecessary marks in that. I have marks in mind for that. There, that's pretty good. While this is still pretty much in the rough, in the pommel, I'm going to drill a hole through it for a cord. So let's go do that. What I usually do before I drill is I like to make a pilot. Metal, I'd punch it with a punch. This is one of my scribes. This scribe is one that I save aside for stone. When I'm working with ivory and things, I rely on a much sharper tool, and I like to keep it sharp. And grinding it against a stone is not a good way to keep it sharp. If I kept at this, it would drill a hole in itself all the way through, but it's not what I want to spend all my time on. So you can let's see, does that show? I think in there you can see the little mark I've made. Keeps a bit from wandering. So it's kind of nice. This slate is soft enough that you don't need special tool, special stone drills or diamond drills or anything. And we have it. That's good. Now I'm going to take the same tool here and use the edge of it like a knife. Go around and chamfer the crown, the edges of the hole to reduce wear on whatever cord might end up in it. Where's that camera? A lot of focus, I guess, but you can see the crowning a bit there. Now comes the fun part, decorating it. I'm going to put a twisted handle on it, or a twist on the handle, I suppose. There, that's basically what I'm after. Now I'm going to use this tool, which is another of my stone carving barons, I guess you'd call it. It has a triangular grind to it, clipped off at a slight angle. And this is, I'd call this the belly of the beast. You act like a plow going through it with it, push through it like a what they call a parting tool, a V-gouge in wood. See that? Glasses on so I can follow a line. One thing about pencil lines, and just over my toe with a wheel. Pencil lines on slate, they don't last for long. I think actually I'm going to take and reinforce that with a little scratchology. They will stay visible for a lot longer. That's got it. All right, proceed. I've gouged down most of the line. I'll take that nice little square file. Files are tricky doing this. They can wander. They can also go off and leave marks on other places if you're not paying attention to every inch of the file. So to reduce the wandering, that's why I put that groove in there with my burn. Y'all are hitting that like button, right? Okay, we got that roughed in with the file. Now I'm going to use this for like a knife to scrape away the corners of the twist. This is an 8-chord twist that I'm carving on here. Got one shoulder just about done. 7 more to go. I hope Max finds some cool music to put behind this so I don't have to start singing, because we will lose subscribers if that happens. So I've done 2 shoulders now. That reveals one fairly completed chord. Show you a little closer. Stay in focus. So this one right. So now I'm just going to do that to the other 3 chords. I don't need to drag you through it. Okay, so here we are. I've got the chords all carved in the twist. Now it's time to sand it up a bit, smooth it out. 220, I wouldn't want to use anything coarser than that. This is a fairly well used piece, so it's not terribly aggressive. And this will be perfect. Don't want anything too aggressive at this point, because it'll put deeper scratches in and I'll be wanting to get out. We'll say this much about sanding and finishing slate, pipestone, and other stones is, even though you could use steel wool on it, I wouldn't, because the steel actually wears off onto the stone and leaves a darkness, a blackness that's very difficult to get off after it's on. And the other thing is, I've noticed when I've made some pipes, I use steel wool and it polished down the surface, but like I was saying about little hard inclusions in the stone itself, those don't go down with steel wool, but the surrounding material does, and therefore you get these bumps that kind of not usually what you're looking for. Stick to sandpaper. That was 220. This is 400. Just as fine as I'm going to go with slate. Now I'm going to sand the head of it. And I wanted to note that in order to maintain this marginal ridge as best as I can, I'm going to do most of my sanding in this area and just very lightly come up into that ridge area. Not to overlap it. I don't want to go over the top and round it off too much, although it probably will a little bit. That graceful little taper is what I'm trying to maintain. Now I'm going to sand it lightly for now. This ridge would be hard to lose. Okay, so I've got it pretty well sanded all the way around. You'll notice some scratches left on this surface and this. That's because I sanded that very lightly. I'm not done with that. We're going to do a bit of decorating on it. And so I'm going to put a border. Okay, so that's kind of the design I'm going with. So what I'm going to do is blacken this up good and thick. There. That's kind of what I'm after here. Yeah, I'll see that. Yeah, I think you can. Okay, so I'm going to go around the outer edge of that blackened line that I've made. This is a round point ball. I like for scratching. It doesn't wander where I want it to. This, like before, establishes a line that won't go away. You can hear somebody else carving. I think it's a mouse. There, it's outlined. Now I'm going to go around the border. Little potting tool. This particular tool tracks in a straight line rather nicely. Now, because the rest of the design is got a lot of curves going on, I'm going to use my other tool to deepen my outline cut. Yeah. Nosy neighbor time. None no recognizable. Okay, so I've got the outlining done. Now what we're going to do is take away some of the background and raise it up a bit. I think to start off with, I'm going to do with this little tool. So I'm just using it like a knife. You want to be really careful coming into these border lines that you stop at those border lines. And that's what they're kind of designed to do. They're like a stopping cut, but you can also pretty easily blast right through them if you're not paying attention. We're going to try not to do that today. Don't need a whole lot of tools for this. What's fun for me is working on a piece like this really takes me there, you know, it takes my mind to days of old. It's kind of a fun little trip for me. I really like working on is mammoth ivory. There's a trip. What's nice about this particular blade is you'll see that it's got a kind of a swept edge. It's not straight down to the point. So that makes it nice for scraping out the background. It's like a knife. The background is all wasted away now. What we're going to do now is the overlays. This is going to be all, you know, woven. So what I've found with this stuff is if you make a continuous loop, a line, and you've got all your backgrounds cleaned out, it doesn't matter where you start. For instance, I will start here. Okay. And then go under. This one's gone under this one. So now it's got to go over this one. And over. So it's going under this one. It is absolutely possible to get screwed up on this. But this particular design is fairly simple. I think I'll be able to pull it up. So under this one. And over under this one. Okay. So what I would like to do now is take some really super fine papers. Here's 1,000. That is pretty much there. Now, with wear and wearing it, and you know, I mean the wear against your clothes and your skin and everything, it'll get darker, but that will always show. And I've been wearing mine for well over 30 years. I hit it with a mallet while I was carving, fly rod actually. But aside from that, it wears well. So what I'm going to do is repeat this on that side. You've seen a slab of slate, cut it out, carved it out, polished it up some. There you have it. I hope this inspires you to pick up a piece of slate, have some fun. It doesn't take a lot. I've been at it for a long, long time, but when I was about 15 or 16, can't remember the date, I carved that out of the same piece of slate that I just made that hammer out of. My father had a workbench that was made out of a old pool table, and he'd take the slate out of that and was using it for various things, and one of it got broken, and I made short order of cutting that up and making things out of it. It works really nice. Some other things that I've made out of the slate, this same piece of slate, same piece I'm wearing. Let's see, I showed you the gorgets. Pipestone, beautiful material to carve. This is the pipe that I made out of that. This is a walrus tusk. Pipestone bowl. Again, pipestone bowl, whale's tooth. This is a fun one. Pipestone bowl, swordfish bill. Okay, talc, which is a very soft form of soapstone. I made that, a replica of an original that was dug up, I think in New York State. And here's one that I made out of harder soapstone. I believe this is Finland soapstone. Pewter board top. And that's about everything I've got to show. Hope you had fun. Push the like button, subscribe. Thanks. We'll talk to you later. Bye.